One thing the reader should know when they're reading their Bible, we often talk too simplistically about typology, Old Testament, New Testament. But where did the New Testament authors learn their typology? From the Old Testament authors. So, we talked about an illustration of this earlier. So what Isaiah does is typological. He's picking up earlier things, and then we're getting a, somewhat fulfillment, but not ultimately fulfilled. And so when we get to the New Testament, there I'm picking up on the language of from Ricky Watts, who I think still teaches up at Regent College in British Columbia. And he wrote a major monograph on the new Exodus, and Mark especially, but he was dealing with Isaiah. Mm-hmm. And he's looking back and depending especially on Jacques Ellul and Ricoeur. And Jacques Ellul is a French sociologist. Ricoeur has written about theory and hermeneutics and especially metaphor. Mm-hmm. And so the idea here is that the mediatorial role is when we have a motif or a theme or a category that it actually shapes the way we think about text and about communication. So that this actually shapes the ideology is the term they would use, so that influences categories with which we think, so that to put it in the vernacular very simply, so when these New Testament authors come along, they're expecting something of this Isaianic New Exodus.
Yeah, right.
And then they see, we have another Moses here, so to speak, and we have another Elijah here. And some of these authors, like Luke, had no problem merging those prophets into the one true prophet, namely Christ. And, that was not incoherent, that was coherent. And so Elijah applies not just to John the Baptist, but to Christ. And so this is shaping their expectations and even the way they categorize and express themselves about this salvation event. Or maybe to put it in language we're more familiar with in the podcast is, here the Isaianic New Exodus is eschatologized in the sense that there's expectation. And then when we get to the New Exodus, we see Christ fulfilling this. It becomes even further eschatologized. Mm-hmm. So there's a ramping up and expectation for something even more so to happen. Mark and Matthew have reiterations of the Exodus in all kinds of ways. It's repackaged. Christ is clearly the agent of the new Exodus. As I mentioned earlier, he's the new Moses who comes and now is bringing about a salvation event that far outstrips the original Exodus that Moses led the Israelites through the sea. Now he comes to deliver us from sin and Satan and subdue our sins and our enemies. But also the Exodus has now become a future event built upon these past events that helps again bring encouragement and consolation to the people if they will listen and respond in faith.